For some, the silence isn't quiet. It's a low, persistent thrum pushing them to the edge. This isn't just a story about isolation. It's about a man who weaponized it, transforming a remote Canadian farm into a living hell. A place where the cries of children were swallowed by the vast, unforgiving landscape of Quebec. Roch Thériault, a man whose charisma masked a monstrous cruelty, began his reign of terror in the late 1970s. He called his followers the Ant Hill Kids, a name that would soon become synonymous with unspeakable suffering and absolute control. Born in 1947, Thériault's early life was marked by instability, a pattern that often precedes the rise of those who seek to control others. He drifted between jobs, eventually finding a calling, or so he claimed, in a twisted interpretation of religious prophecy. His initial teachings were a bizarre mix of biblical scripture and doomsday predictions. He promised salvation, a chosen few who would survive the coming apocalypse. This narrative, potent in its simplicity, drew in vulnerable individuals seeking meaning. By 1977, Thériault had gathered his first group of followers, mostly women and their children. They settled on a secluded farm near Sainte-Marie-de-Beauce, Quebec. The isolation was deliberate, a crucial step in severing ties with the outside world. Life on the farm quickly devolved. Thériault, styling himself as Moses, demanded absolute obedience. He enforced strict rules, controlled all resources, and began to systematically dismantle his followers' sense of self. His methods of control escalated from psychological manipulation to brutal physical abuse. Punishments for perceived transgressions were severe, public, and often involved grotesque acts of violence, designed to instill fear and break spirits. One of his earliest victims was Solange Thériault, his first wife. She endured years of unimaginable torment, a testament to the suffocating power Thériault wielded over his family. Her story is a chilling precursor to the horrors that would follow. The children, trapped in this nightmare, suffered immensely. They were often neglected, malnourished, and subjected to the same, if not worse, abuses as the adults. Their innocence was stolen, replaced by constant terror. Thériault's pronouncements became increasingly erratic and violent. He believed he was God, or at least his direct messenger, and that his actions, no matter how depraved, were divinely sanctioned. This delusion fueled his sadism. He performed crude surgeries, convinced he possessed healing powers. These were nothing more than mutilations, often conducted without anesthesia, leading to severe injuries and, in some cases, death. The lack of medical intervention was absolute. One of the most infamous incidents involved Gabrielle Lavallee. In 1988, Thériault, in a fit of rage and delusion, amputated her arm with an axe. She survived, but the brutal act left an indelible scar, both physical and psychological. Why did they stay? The question echoes through every cult story. For the Ant Hill Kids, it was a complex web of fear, isolation, financial dependence, and psychological conditioning. Their reality was entirely dictated by Thériault. The outside world remained largely unaware. The remote location, coupled with Thériault's deliberate efforts to prevent contact, allowed the horrors to fester for years. Neighbors knew something was amiss, but couldn't grasp the scale. Eventually, however, the truth began to leak out. Survivors, often those who managed to escape or were cast out, started to tell their stories. These whispers eventually reached law enforcement, painting a picture of unimaginable depravity. In 1989, authorities finally raided the compound. What they found confirmed the worst fears, evidence of prolonged abuse, torture, and a community shattered by one man's tyrannical rule. The silence of the Ant Hill was finally broken. Thériault was arrested and charged with multiple offenses, including murder. The trial that followed exposed the full extent of his cruelty, shocking the Canadian public and drawing international attention to the remote cult. He was ultimately convicted of murder for the death of one of his wives, Adele Sorella, whom he had beaten to death. He received a life sentence, a small measure of justice for the countless lives he had ruined. Even in prison, Thériault's manipulative charisma persisted. He continued to correspond with followers, attempting to maintain his influence from behind bars. The psychological hold he had on some was profoundly deep-seated. Roch Thériault died in prison in 2011, stabbed by a fellow inmate. His death marked the end of his physical reign, but the scars he inflicted on his victims and their families continue to endure. The story of the Ant Hill Kids serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked power, extreme isolation, and the insidious ways in which charismatic figures can exploit vulnerability. It's a testament to the resilience of those who survived. Understanding how cults like Therialts form and operate is crucial. It's about recognizing the red flags, the patterns of control, and the psychological mechanisms that strip individuals of their autonomy. The legacy of the Ant Hill Kids is not just a tale of horror, but a call to vigilance. A reminder that even in seemingly peaceful landscapes, darkness can thrive when left unchallenged, echoing in the quiet spaces between us. Next, we delve into the chilling story of Heaven's Gate and their cosmic deception.